Good evening and welcome to the regular Board of Aldermen meeting of the Kernersville Board of Aldermen. Today is Tuesday, June 28th. I'll begin by calling this meeting to order. Now I'd like to recognize Dr. Michael Gehring, pastor at Main Street United Methodist Church, to lead the invocation. Pastor Gehring.
Let us pray. Gracious God, we thank you for the gift of community. Working together for the common good is not always easy, and so we ask for your presence to be in this meeting tonight. Give guidance and direction so that the best decisions can be made that honor the values that you have given to us: justice, fair play, and treating each other with the dignity and worth that all God's children deserve. Be with us this evening by the power of your Holy Spirit. We ask all this in your most holy name. Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. You may be seated. So one of the wonderful honors presiding as mayor and being part of the Board of Aldermen is to recognize significant occasions in our community. And this month we recognize July as Parks and Recreation Month. As you know, we're undergoing a extensive planning process for planning for the master plan for the parks for the next 10 years. And we actually are having a public input meeting tomorrow evening. So if you're interested, that is a great way to express your ideas for the parks for the future. And the information is available from Kernersville Parks and Rec, from their Facebook page, or from the website. It's at the Public Services building, and I believe the meeting starts at 6 o'clock. Is that correct, Mr. Swisher?
I think that's correct. Is that? Yep.
So in celebration of Park and Recreation Month, we'll be planning for the future of our parks as well. All right, moving on to our regular agenda. We have public hearings. We've got a public hearing on a text amendment for items 1A and also items 1B. When an item is denoted as a public hearing, persons attending shall be permitted to address the Board of Aldermen regarding the item under consideration. Those speaking in favor speaking first, those against speaking second. Proponents and opponents shall each be given 20 minutes of time to speak. If needed, there's a procedure also for rebuttal, and all the instructions for the public hearing process are included in our agenda. So I'll call the first item. It's 1A, a text amendment. Curtis Swisher, agent for the town of Kernersville. Curtis, of course, our town manager, but whenever a text amendment is brought, he is always listed as the proponent. The item is a zoning text amendment to the UDO, amending Chapter B, Article 2-6.4 to remove occupancy requirements for accessory developments to comply with state law changes in North Carolina General Statute 160D-104. This is zoning docket KT 27D. We'll begin with a presentation by our Community Development Director, Ms. Garner.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Alderman. Our first text amendment tonight is KT 270. It does propose a text amendment to remove the occupancy requirements for accessory dwellings to comply with General Statutes 160D, 104, and some recent court cases. The way our UDO is currently written, an accessory dwelling unit has restrictions on who could live in said unit. So it would only allow a property owner to let a relative, a dependent, a servant, elderly, or handicapped person live within the accessory dwelling unit. North Carolina General Statutes 160D 104 clarifies that development approvals run with the land, which eliminates complications with change of ownership. And there's recent case law raising concerns over the enforceability of a town on accessory dwelling unit occupancy provisions. Those are against the town of Chapel Hill and the city of Wilmington. And in both cases, the courts of appeals have ruled that zoning can regulate land use, but not ownership and occupancy. So in the UDO, we are proposing to remove the occupancy requirement. All other permitting standards would still be the same. So it is just removing the occupancy requirement from attached and detached accessory dwellings, but everything else remains the same for permitting. Planning board and staff do recommend approval of the text amendment as presented, and it was unanimous with members present at the June planning board meeting.
Okay, this is a public hearing. I'll declare the public hearing open. Is there anyone here who's wishing to speak in favor of this text amendment? Seeing none, is there anyone here wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Are there any questions, discussion, or do I have a motion?
I'll motion to approve.
Motion by Alderman Thompson.
Second.
I have a second by Mayor Pro Tem Apple. All in favor signify by raising your right hand. It's unanimous. Item B is another text amendment. Curtis Swisher, agent for the town of Kernersville, for a proposed zoning text amendment to the UDO, amending various sections to remove criminal offenses from UDO violations to comply with legislative changes in North Carolina General Statutes 160A-175, zoning docket KT 271. Ms. Garner, do you have a presentation on this item?
Yes, ma'am. This text amendment is to remove the criminal charges in a zoning ordinance. So General Statutes 160A 175 was related to enforcement of ordinances and sort of decriminalizing municipal statutes, particularly the zoning ordinance. So criminal penalties cannot be in ordinances regulating land development. Senate Bill 300 passed in 2021. So this allows us to retain our civil penalties, but we can't charge anybody with a misdemeanor for violating the zoning ordinance. So we can fine them and continue to issue notice of violations, but that's it. So it does remove several sections of the UDO that did retain that in the enforcement section and in the subdivision ordinances. Planning board also heard this in June, and they also recommend approval of the text amendment as presented, with all members voting in favor.
Thank you, Ms. Garner. This is a public hearing. I'll declare the public hearing open. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this text amendment? Seeing none, is there anyone here to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Is there discussion by the board, or do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion by Alderman Thompson. Do I have a second? Second by Alderman Penix. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. It's unanimous. All right, that brings us to the public session. Our first item is speakers from the floor. We have one speaker signed up, Jennifer Tierney.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Alderman. I first of all want to thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight and be able to speak with all of you. I appreciate everything that you do for what is my hometown of Kernersville for my entire life, so I appreciate you for that. What I'm here about tonight is about fireworks. I love celebrations just like everybody does. Fireworks are beautiful. I know that we're going to have fireworks certainly next week. But I wanted to give you a few things to think about with regards to fireworks that I think a lot of people may not even be aware of. Fireworks are no fun for some people, and they also are a potential source of drama. Of trauma. Some of the people that have extreme problems with fireworks are our combat veterans, people that are gun violence victims. And they can experience PTSD and flashbacks when they do hear fireworks. I am the founding member of Forever Friends of North Carolina, which is an animal welfare group here in Forsyth County. That we started the group around 15 years ago, and I'm very active in the entire animal welfare community in Forsyth County. And those of us that do animal welfare have a great concern, and we always dread celebrations where there's fireworks, because fireworks cause more animals to be lost and killed in the week of July 4th than any other time of the entire year. Pets are very likely to run away. They get lost. They get disoriented. They get ran over. Wild animals are also affected by fireworks in that they can get scared. They run into objects. They run into cars. They get tangled up in fences. They run into roads. They have birds have been known, just happened last year, 5,000 birds flew into objects that killed them in another state that was caused by fireworks. Also, they abandon their babies because of the fear that they have. And then, of course, animal welfare, people that do wildlife rescue just cannot possibly save them all. And the AKC says that more animals are traumatized and killed and lost the week of 4th of July than any other time of the year. That is also backed up by all the national, state, and local animal rescue organizations and animal services. So it's something that's a real problem because I have never had a dog that did not respond in a negative way to fireworks. The other thing, getting back to people, though, is children that are on the autism spectrum have very extreme difficulties with fireworks, as do people, elderly people who have dementia or Alzheimer's. I witnessed that firsthand. My mother died of Alzheimer's, and those last few years that she did have Alzheimer's, it was very, very difficult to try to deal with her. And at that time, she became so frightened. You know, they people that do have these issues, they just literally become overwhelmed. And what I wanted you to also think about is the United States Consumer Product Safety Commission reported that 18 people died in 2020 due to fireworks, and there were 15,600 emergency room visits because of fireworks. And so it's something to consider, to think about, because what a lot of European Union nations are doing, and what is starting to kind of ripple all across the United States, are fireworks that they're not as loud as what we currently use. They do not give, I'm not going to, tell you something that's not correct. They don't give the big bang that you get with the fireworks that we use now, but they're very beautiful, and they also can have more color to them. But a lot of communities are going to that because of all the different populations and animals that suffer because of fireworks. And so I would like to ask that for next year, if maybe y'all could do a study or just look at it or consider it. But the problem is not so much the firework display that the town does, although that is a problem. But more than that, it's the number of people. I see it every year. It gets worse and worse that are setting off fireworks in our neighborhoods. Last year, last July 4th, they went on till 3 o'clock in the morning. I had numerous calls into the police department. They responded, but it was almost as if they knew when the police were there, because they would stop and then it would start up again. But I think one of the things that I would like to ask if you all would consider this year is to put up some kind of public service message, maybe and also the Kernersville News. The police department could do a press conference just to let people know that the community does not tolerate illegal fireworks, because the ones that are causing the problem, they are illegal. If they shoot up in the air, well up in the air, make a lot of noise, those are the ones that are illegal. And they're illegal for a reason. And the reason I gave, the people that die and the people that are injured because of them. So if the police department could have, all their people on duty and just try to get it stopped. But I just called them last week. It started about 10:30 at night, and it's just a real problem. And if you look at the Nextdoor apps, if you look on social media in the days after 4th of July, there's a lot of people that are complaining about fireworks in their neighborhoods and trying to get it under control. So if you all would consider that, I would greatly appreciate it. And so would children in the community that are affected with some kind of illness. with our elderly people that have cognitive decline, and certainly for all of our domestic and wild animals. Thank you. Do you have any questions for me?
Thank you.
Okay, thank
Are
you.
there any questions of Ms. Tierney at this time? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, is there anyone else who'd like to address the board on an issue that's not on the agenda as a speaker from the floor? Seeing none, we'll move on to public session item 2B, consideration of an ordinance for budget amendment number 9.
Madam Mayor and Board, you have in your packet Budget Amendment number 9. We have 3 or 4 increases in or 3 increases and 1 decrease in expenditures. The biggest one of those being the increase in the engineering department of $1.2 million. We also have the revenues from CCUC to cover that. We have an increase in the finance department of $26,000, and that's to cover the increased cost of property tax collections, which that means we collected more in property tax than we originally budgeted for. So we have to pay a percentage of that back to Forsyth County for collecting those. We have a decrease in the governing body of $26,550, and then we have a slight increase in the police department to cover the cost of a replacement vehicle. We got insurance along with that to help offset that cost, and then we had decreases in travel and insurance and bonds and overtimes in that same department. So when it's all said and done, we had a small appropriation from fund balance of $19,250 to balance the general fund revenues with expenditures.
Are there any questions? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Got a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Apple. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Thompson. All those in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. All right, we are to item 2C, consideration of a resolution setting the criteria for the design build method for the Beeson Crossroads Fire Station renovation project. Mr. Swisher.
You have in your packet a resolution adopting the written criteria for the utilization of the design build method. We're required by state law to adopt this resolution if this is the method that we intend to use. We feel that this is the best method to utilize in this particular situation. We've used it before. Allows us to get the project done a little bit faster, a little bit more flexibility there. You have in the packet also the establishment of the criteria. I think in part 1, there are 6 criteria that have to be met, and in part 2, there are also 6 criteria. So it spells out those criteria and how we are meeting those criteria as well. So if the board so chooses to adopt that resolution, then we will proceed forward with this method of construction on the building.
Okay, are there any concerns, questions, discussion, or do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion for approval by Alderman J.R. Gorham. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Penix. All those in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. You need anything else on this item, Mr. Swisher?
No, ma'am.
All right, moving on then to item 2D, consideration of the schedule of fees and charges for the operations of the town of Kernersville for fiscal year 2022-2023. Mr. Swisher?
Every year we adopt the budget. We have a schedule of fees that is attached to the budget. It was not in the ordinance when you adopted the budget ordinance at the last meeting. We still have to adopt the schedule of fees, so you have that schedule of fees in front of you. There are a few changes where we recommended a slight increase in that schedule of fees, mainly to get it up to an even number, but also to reflect the increase in our cost of doing that particular permit or permit review or plan review or whatever that might be. So you have that in your packet, and if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. And this will be attached to the budget. Also, it will be in the other departments and online for the folks that come in and apply for permits or whatever it might be that they're needing.
All right, are there any questions or do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve, Madam Mayor.
A motion by Mayor Pro Tem Apple. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Gorham. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Okay, I have Alderman Thompson, Alderman Apple, Alderman Gorham, and Alderman Penix in favor. All those opposed? Alderman Barrow in opposition. Does anyone have any comments? Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. All of the following matters are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion with no separate discussion unless a board member or citizen so requests, in which event the matter will be removed from the consent agenda and considered under the following item. A, approval of minutes for the June 1 special session. B, approval of minutes for the June 1 regular meeting. C, approval of minutes for the June 7 regular meeting. And D, consideration of technical correction to rezoning ordinance 2022-21 to adjust meets and bounds description per revision from petitioner. And that was for zoning case K547A5 as described in the memo attached to that item. Okay, is there anyone who'd like to see any of the items removed from the consent agenda who is serving on the board? Is there anyone in the audience, staff or resident of Kernersville who'd like to see any of the items removed from the consent agenda? Is there anyone present at this meeting who would like to see items removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll ask, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Got a motion by Alderman Thompson. Do I have a second? Second by Alderman Barrow. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. It's unanimous. All right, Mr. Swisher. Item 5 is the town manager's report.
Only have one item of information, Madam Mayor. Let you know we've updated our finance policy in regards to meal allotments for employees and also for the board. When you travel, we've not updated it probably in about 8 years, 7 or 8 years. So it's now been updated. We've increased it on average of about $8, somewhere in there per meal. As you can imagine, not having been updated for 7 or 8 years is kind of behind on what it actually costs now to go eat. So that's been updated. It'll be reflected next time you all travel somewhere, next time our employees travel. It will go into effect July 1. So
have you updated mileage, or is that tied to an outside rate?
that's tied to the IRS rate.
Okay.
It gets updated whenever they change it. And I think they either have changed it or they are changing it to maybe 66, I believe I heard. I think.
As of July 1st, the IRS rate will be 62.5 cents. Right now it's 58.5. They don't usually do that in the middle of the year, but they did because of gas prices.
So our mileage rate will be changed in accordance with that. And that's all I have. Wish everyone a happy 4th.
Do you need any action by the board on that?
No, ma'am. The board has given me authority to do that several boards ago. So I have the authority. I just usually update the board when it's a policy that will impact you all if you travel somewhere as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you for the greetings for a happy 4th. Mr. Powell, do you have anything to present?
Madam Mayor and Board, we do have need tonight for a motion for closed session to appropriate time.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Thompson, do you have anything tonight?
No, ma'am. Happy 4th of July.
Mr. Barra?
Yes, I got a couple.
Is your microphone on?
Do what?
Is your microphone on?
I got a couple of things I'd like to address the board with. The first thing is I've got quite a few calls lately about, and this is for Dorian, I reckon, quite a few calls about potholes big enough to swallow a car between Cagney's and Hardee's Have you heard anything about that, Dorian? No?
Are you talking about the driveway that goes down to
Yeah,
Always? That's a
know.
private drive, yeah.
I know it is, but we got to do something about it according to, what can we do about it? I reckon.
In the past, we've notified the property owner about that very same pothole, and they
Right.
went in and fixed it. We also notified them about some closer down to Aldi's. We can notify the property owner again and let them know you need to do something about your pothole.
Yeah,
Because it's pretty good size, you're right.
Yeah, it gets worse.
They've got, I
mean,
think they've got about 3 right there kind of in a row.
Yeah, J.C. Fall used to own that deal, but he passed away about a year or so back.
Yeah, and they sold it. I think the actual last one we notified may have been JC, or actually whoever was handling it for
Right.
him. And I don't know who owns it now, but we'll find out and send them a letter.
Good deal. Thank you, Curtis. The other thing I wanted to address the board about, the Chamber of Commerce and the Kernersville Community Appearance Commission does a 4th of July decorating contest. And they've done one as long as I can remember. They've always had one. And I was there helping the people in my office decorate the front of the office up. They have a big time doing that every year. And take a lot of pride in doing it. And they showed me the flyer. You can find it online or in the paper that the Chamber of Commerce put out. And what it says is that decorate the front of your store or the front of your door. And it says, enter this year's drawing for a chance to win. And I thought, a drawing? What are they talking about? So I said, have you got any of these things from years past on your computer? And they looked and they found some. And I know in many years past, that's always been a contest of who did the best job of decorating the front of their store. And we'd have judges, and the one they found for me was one where they had a guest judge, Laney Pope from Channel 12, and judges from the Kernersville Community Appearance Commission would go around and judge all of the fronts of the stores and then award a winner. And I wanted to address the Chamber of Commerce and the Appearance Commission of why did they change it to some kind of raffle or something. It's not a contest, and they call it a contest. And my point is this. The United States of America is the greatest country in the world. There's no question. And the reason we're the greatest country in the world is because everything we do is a contest to see who's the best and the brightest without regard for anything else. It's who works the hardest and who does the best job, and that's what drives this country. That's what's made us the greatest country in the world. And it appears to me that this the Chamber of Commerce has got all woke that they want to just pass out some awards for just participating. I don't like that. I don't think it's appropriate, especially on the 4th of July, a time when we celebrate our Declaration of Independence, when politicians, not unlike us, if you signed up and you said you wanted to secede from the British and start your own country, if you won, it was good. If you lost, you died. It takes a pretty strong politician to stand up and say something like that. And I think that represents the essence of what it is to be an American. And I didn't like that. I wanted to say something about it. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Board of Aldermen.
Mr. Swisher, do you know about that?
I do not.
Okay. All right,
Madam Mayor, I can speak to that.
Sure.
Until COVID, that's the way it was done. It was always done with a judging contest. And in the immediate aftermath of COVID, that was changed to a random drawing. But what we also noticed in the Community Appearance Commission, I say we because I sit in on those meetings as a staff person, mostly to keep them updated on their finances. But the discussion at the Community Appearance Commission was they had noticed a gradual decline in the number of entries because some businesses have large storefronts and some have very small ones. And they were afraid it was getting to the point where the same people had basically almost an unfair advantage over others. And it was causing some of the participants to drop out. And so in order to get them back in, the Community Appearance Commission decided to make it to keep it as a random drawing as they had done right after COVID, to encourage those businesses to continue to participate. So it was designed to get more participation from the community.
Thank you very much for that, but I think by giving everybody a trophy, you're not going to encourage people to do the best job they can, and you're not going to encourage more people to come out and decorate. I think is what they should have done was judge people according to how big their storefront was. This whole thing of being unfair to one or another, life's unfair. And anyhow, that's my thought. But thank you for explaining what they were thinking.
And Alderman Barrow, I'd just like to say that's an excellent idea, and I will mention that to the Community Appearance Commission, that if we bring back judging based on entries, that different businesses can be given different weight based on the size space they have available.
I think that'd be a good idea. Thank you very much.
Madam Mayor, I'd just like to say that I don't want Alderman Barrow to be on an island by himself on this. I agree with his observations. It should be competitive. That's what causes us to succeed and to prosper.
Mr. Barrow, do you have further comments?
That's all. Thank you.
Mr. Apple? Mr. Gorham?
Yes, I have two comments.
Is your microphone on?
Yes, I just don't have my mouth to it. First comment is some telephone calls that I've received from constituents here in Kernersville about sign ordinance, these power wash signs and on these telephone poles and stop signs and things of that nature. And don't know exactly what the policy is, but there's some concern. It's to some folks, it's a nuisance and it's not doing Kernersville any justice as far as beautification and whatnot of our town. So I would like to see that we look into it.
Our policy is they're illegal unless they're in private yard. We get them up out of the right of way and so forth. I think they go out just about every morning, I believe, don't they, Catherine? Catherine's department handles that. We get them up. Sometimes I can get them back up faster and we can pull them up and get them out. But they make rounds. Usually they'll do it on Monday morning, first thing, to get all the ones that were put up over the weekend. And then as they're out, the inspectors will see them as they're out doing other inspections and pull them up. But certainly if you see some that are out and there's several of them in one area out in the right of way on the phone pole, shoot us an email and say, hey, I've seen these signs. We'll go by and pick them up. If the citizens see one, just have them email. They can either email info@toknc.com or they can email me or Catherine, either one directly, and we'll go out and take care of it.
Okay. Appreciate that guidance. And my second comment is in regards to the first annual Juneteenth celebration that we had in Kernersville a couple of weekends ago. On the 18th of June, we had our first Juneteenth, and it was well attended. I think everybody here, the planning team and Kernersville staff, for making it a success. And I think that it will only continue to grow as we continue to celebrate, commemorate, and educate constituents of the importance, the historical significance of Juneteenth, when all Americans finally received their freedom here in this great country. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Penix?
No, ma'am, I just would like to wish everyone a happy and safe 4th.
Happy 4th of July, everyone. Do I have a motion to go into closed session?
Madam Mayor, may I ask one question?
Go ahead, Mr.
before we
Apple.
do? Curtis, on the sign violations that JR talked about that you discussed as well, is there any kind of, for the people that get them back up as quickly as we can get them down, is there any type of penalty if someone violates that ordinance in that manner?
I think it's is it the third time, Catherine, that they continue to do it, we'll start sending them a notice violation of $100?
I believe so. Some of it is just catching them.
Yeah. And we've caught some of them, what we call the chronic violators. We take their signs and bring them here to town hall, so they don't get their signs, but they evidently have a warehouse full of them and they'll put them back up. But Usually we'll, if we pull them twice, Marcy's really good. Marcy Campbell in zoning usually is one enforcing most of it. She's really good about contacting whatever number is on the sign and saying, look, this is the second time or the third time. Next time it's going to cost you. And usually that stops it. What you run into with a lot of these signs, and I know it used to be the signs, the lead-in signs for some of these neighborhoods, they pay folks to put them out, and you used to see them every Friday. They would go out on Fridays and literally they would have a trailer full of signs and they would go out and just stick the signs out. So it's what they've done is, they've kind of expanded their revenue. Now, instead of just doing the housing developments, they've also got the pressure washing, like you mentioned. You can go down by the GNC, if it's still in business, down on South Main Street, and they would have them lined up from basically the Big Burger spot all the way down to GNC. It's not the folks at the companies that's putting them out. Ultimately, it is because the company's paying these folks, but they just put them out. So, a lot of times it's more folks, different folks putting them out. So it's a matter of contacting the company and saying, hey, you still have people putting signs out, you need to stop. So there is some violation and some penalties for that on, I think it's the third time. And we will enforce it if we can catch them and find out who they are and where to send them the penalties.
Any further business in open session before this board at this moment? Do I have a motion for closed session then?
So moved. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143, 318, 11A3, I move that the board go into closed session to consult with an attorney employed or retained by the public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body, which privilege is hereby acknowledged.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by, lots of heads nodding, but an actual second by Mayor Pro Tem Apple. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. The motion's unanimous. This board is now in closed session. welcome back to the regular meeting of the Kernersville Board of Aldermen. Is there any further business before the board this evening? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I had a motion by Chris Thompson. Do I have a second? Second by John Barrow. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Thank you very much. This meeting is now adjourned.